Hello again. Cool. Well, this is day 4, so Thursday, of the Solo Foundry. We're building a charity donation app, um, following lean startup principles and trying to use as much no code as possible. So, yesterday, to recap, we went through and looked at the survey results and kind of drew some conclusions from that. And we also did some crazy 8 stuff for UX design to really brainstorm. So I can open that up and see where we left off. Yep. Sorry, I'm looking at the Twitch thing. It just vibrated at me. I really am just getting used to doing any of this stuff, either Twitch or YouTube's, or even talking into a screen is a new thing. So, cool. Awesome sauce. So, I'll just leave that there in case anybody does come in and wants to chat. Cool. So, and we also crafted this email for the survey results, the people that had contributed. And I actually just sent these off. Didn't do it yesterday. This is one tool that I had introduced yesterday, Calendly, where it lets people like pick a day and pick a time that works for them. Actually, now that I look at it, I should probably change it so it's like on the half hour instead of on the every 20 minutes. I did that when I cloned it from another one that was like 20-minute meetings, and this is 30. But yeah, so you pick a time and then you can fill in your name, and it gives you a calendar invite with a Zoom link. So pretty sweet. Awesome. So, yep, that was the email that we sent out, and we'll see how many responses we get. The point with those sending the Calendly link and having a Zoom meeting is that we can do customer interviews. That's a really loose term, I guess, because we don't have any customers, right? It's still just an idea. But following the principles laid out in the MOM test, which is a fantastic book about how to get feedback on an idea, how to tell if your business is a good idea when everyone's lying to you. Yeah, how to ask the right questions, and more importantly, how not to ask the wrong questions. So that you're just kind of doing a confirmation bias, right? You're getting the answers that you want to hear, which is, oh yeah, your idea is great, or people say, oh yeah, I'd use it, but in reality, we can't really predict future behavior even if we want to. So instead, you're trying to look at like past behavior. So that would be the idea. That's why we sent out the survey to see who had donated to some charities, and then might subjectively talk with them about, I don't know, maybe some of their motivations for donating, or maybe some of their frustrations, or why they chose the ones that they chose. Yeah, just really like concrete things about the present or past. So the crazy eights, we started to do interface design, and instead of bike shedding on things like designing the login page, or the password reset page or something, which would make us feel busy, but obviously isn't like um, the highest. Like, it may be chronologically how people use the app, but it's not like the highest risk, the highest unknown, right? So instead, we jumped right into how is it that people would be able to balance how much they're spending on, or how much they're contributing to each charity. So maybe I should start with this every time. The concept is a lot like this GiveWell donate page. GiveWell is like an organization that analyzes charities, and they pick their top 8, I think, and let you say, I want to do 5 here and 10 here, and another 10 here. And then down at the bottom it says, 25, and then with the optional add 10% to support the GiveWell organization. So something like this, except with more charities, and perhaps a different user interface. So that's what we're trying to look at, is like, how do you design an interface? So this third iteration was a lot like GiveWells, right, where you could put in dollar amount. The difference between what we're building and what GiveWell has, besides the fact that it would have many, many more charities than just top 8 selected, is also that you start with the premise that there's a fixed dollar per month. So you say I can budget up to, $25 a month or $50 a month or $100 a month or however much is feasible for you as an individual. And then as you add new charities, it splits that money between them. So you get a one-time per month charge on your credit card saying this is your charitable contributions for the month. And maybe it's the month or quarter or year or however often you set it up for. And then this app that we're building will then distribute that out to, it'll aggregate it by all the users who are contributing to a given organization, and then put one deposit in that organization's bank account. So they, instead of saying, they get 1,000 micro donations in their bank, they get one, grouped donation. So this would be like the GiveWell one, but you can see that it's got like weird numbers on it, and it would really bother me, right? This may add up to be a whole number, so maybe add up to be $25, and I think we looked at it yesterday. It's like just over $30. But yeah, I would just want to go in there and fix these and add them to whole numbers, and I would probably spend way too much time trying to make them whole numbers, but also add up to the same amount. So that would be really annoying. And ditto on the percentages. It's just kind of, you'd end up with weird, odd numbers, and maybe, I know that not everybody feels this way, but it would be so frustrating to me. We looked at the $1 Million homepage, which is this brilliant student in 2004-ish was trying to raise money for his education, and so he sold 1 million pixels on a web page for $1 each, and brilliant, he made $1 million, which is amazing, like overnight. So thinking about, oh, well, what if each one of these represented $1, and then we could have, for $25, you could say, and this one goes, these 4, right? This group, this cluster goes to one charity, and then this line goes to another, and that's 5 of them. But then I realized that, a lot of these transactions are actually going to go, if I'm contributing $25 per month and I have more than 25 charities, then by definition, at least one charity will have less than $1. Sorry, my brain went blank. I was looking at the stream again. But so looking at the pixels, that probably wouldn't be great, right? Unless you start splitting it into smaller and smaller pixels, 25-cent increments or 10-cent increments, and then you're just like, oh man, that's nuts. Also looked at this idea of like a bar graph, and this idea that maybe you could slide it. My favorite was actually the pie chart. I was trying to think about how do you make them, each one of the segments, bigger or smaller. The pie chart here, this one looked like you could drag it. This one had like a plus minus. But then that's when I also realized that each one of these slices, again, when you go to, 100 charities or something like that, it's just going to get way too small to even account for. So Instead, we're just going to punt on the whole problem and figure out the interface later. I did mean to email my friend Joe, who has the Bite Size UX. Um, he's a great UX designer, and he does UX education. And they do challenges. BitesizeUX.com has design challenges. So I'll see if maybe his group wants to do a design challenge. That might be fun. He also accepts sponsored design challenges. So sometimes big companies will actually have, like, I don't want to mistake any of the names, but there have been some big names that have asked, because then it's kind of like a 99 designs type thing where they just get a lot of submissions, but then the people also get to add to their portfolio. And I'm sorry if the 99 designs wasn't an appropriate association, just came to mind. But yeah, so just punt it and say that all of the charities get the same amount. So there you go. You turn a problem into not a problem by just saying, I'm not going to do that problem. Cool. So where are we going to pick up? So there are some other stories. I should really get these out of text editor. And I usually use like Trello, but I've been using that a lot lately and wanted to try something else. I wanted to try Notion, but I think I'm signed in to the wrong account on Notion, so that's kind of annoying, and I haven't switched it. Unless did I? Notion. Notion.so. Because the idea is that all of these user stories are going to be covered by, they're going to be, we'll have something in the prototype in the interface to be able to do this. Ignore. And then as we're making the interface, we'll realize there are also some user stories that we needed to do. So I always add, it's kind of like how I've grouped them here. I would do like users, and then you might make a card called user registration. And in that card, we will put, I'm assuming you can have some description. Is that what it is? Description. Okay. So I'm not really familiar with this. How does it look when it's bigger? Okay, that's all right. I can do that. But yeah, and then the idea would be that so you have these kind of grouped like there, and then as you're developing, you would actually say, this one, you could drag it over and say that this one is in progress. Here, I'll make this big so that you can actually see it. Yeah, so user is in progress, and then you could say, and then it's completed. And you can kind of track how a story goes through, and you kind of see what your backlog is. They might even have, Trello has like a history of each of the cards, but I don't know. And actually, I bet you that this would be good if we put this like in its own page. Again, I'm kind of new to Notion, but what I've seen, I've liked. So, but for the time being, we can just leave them here, and I will switch these over. I don't want to waste our time here. So edit user profile. User profiles, registration, setting up payments. Okay, so all right. So let's make a folder, payments, right? And then we'll take the same template. We'll move it up here. Actually, this could live even outside of all this. I love this program. Um, yeah. All right. So we can clone this and then we'll move it into payments. So this is going to be entering credit card. Okay, so let's think for a minute about some of this user flow before we start mocking things up. So there's the concept of onboarding, which is actually maybe this should just go in the user stories. Onboarding. Yeah, so you've probably seen this when you sign up for a site for the first time. Um, what is that experience like, right? So maybe you've kind of got an idea of what the site is like by looking at, uh, the homepage or some of the, the features pages or FAQs or whatever, and then you click registration, right? And that goes back to what we talked about before, but the pirate metrics. Um, yeah. So awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and referral. So awareness is when you've heard of a product but you haven't, you're not a user of it. And there's that old adage, what is it? It takes number of touches for a sale, like 7 touches or something like that. 8. Uh, yeah. So a touch could be they see an advertisement on Facebook. A touch could be a friend recommends it. A touch could be it pops up in their um, newsfeed, or they hear it on a podcast, or they go to your site but they don't sign up, and then these are all um, considered touches. And you've probably had this example too, right? So Notion, I've heard about it from a friend, and then I'd seen it around and I'd heard about it on podcasts, and then a client that I was working with used it, but I still wasn't a user myself per se. I was just using theirs, right? And now I finally have my own, uh, but I don't really know how to use it yet. Probably I skipped their walkthrough. Um, so yeah, so that's the awareness, and then the acquisition is how do they actually, how do you bring them to the site? Activation is when they sign up. Revenue is when they, um, actually now, yeah, okay. Activation revenue is when they actually put in a credit card. Retention is keeping them, and they don't churn, they don't cancel their subscription. And referral is they bring on other people to use the app. So in between this, depending if they have a trial, right, like a 14-day trial or something, this is the crucial period from the moment that they enter their email address and password and they sign up to the moment when you get their credit card information. You've got 14 days to immediately show them the value of this, right? Ditto, if you don't have a trial and maybe putting in credit card, they don't, they do that right at the beginning. They're going to potentially churn if even after they put in their credit card, um, they don't understand how to use the app or they don't see the value in it. So that would be between revenue and retention. But the point is that somewhere in here, you need to wow them. Um, I think I heard a case study about Twitter that it wasn't until the Twitter sign up steps are like you choose your handle, right? And then it immediately goes to a list of popular people that other people follow. So it'd be like celebrities or news sources or something like that. And it wasn't until they added that middle step. They used to go straight from sign up with the email, and they would dump them on their own empty Twitter stream, right? And said, "There's no content here. Tell us what you're thinking." And people would be like, "I have no idea what to put in here, right? I don't know what this tool is. I don't know what the norms are. I don't know what to say." It's like staring at a blank page, like writer's block, right? And so that middle step of saying, "Hey, this is not just about you sharing the little things in your life. It's also about following and learning and having conversations." That was when it exploded. So that sort of onboarding, thinking about that step between when they sign up and when they have the aha moment, you want to make that as short as possible. Because to be honest, we all have short attention spans. There's a million options out there. And if we're not kind of like sucked in from the very get go, then we get bored. We move on. And then when it comes time to, your trial is about to expire, we just cancel it or whatever, never put in our credit card. So if we think about step one of onboarding, um, I think I would have something like popular charities. So, um, like a list of, let's just pick, I don't know, 8 or 12 charities. Um, let's do featured instead of popular charities that we as designate as featured. That will appear on the screen in between sign up and being dumped on um, the list page or account page, etc. Okay, so onboarding step one. Well, step zero is sign up, right? And we have another one of these down here. Um, so step two, feature charity. And then I'm thinking, okay, you got the sign up, right? It does the thing, and you go, here's some charities, and then they all have add buttons. Let's not necessarily put that plus sign. So people can quickly add them to their portfolios. Okay, and then there's a next button at the bottom. I'm wondering about this as doing this like an onboarding versus a walkthrough, because I've heard that for onboarding you're not supposed to create a new UI that's confusing and that other people won't see in the app. Um, hmm. Yeah, so in that case, having like a separate modal or something like this isn't that helpful, perhaps. Okay, well, we'll just go with this anyways. If nothing else, because this would be the easiest way to do some sort of MVP, right? So feature charities, then we would do. Sorry, my whole brain was thinking. I guess I should think out loud. I was thinking about what those steps would be. So the middle one would be um, so donation amount and frequency. So a place to say how much you want to donate per month and or how much you want to donate each period. I think what do you call it? How frequently the periods are. Example, $25 a month, $250 a year. Um, okay. And then step 3 would be enter credit card information. There's an option to skip this step. Okay, so if you think about it, this is really our MVP, right? Just this onboarding part. So I think, if we could get something like that out first, so we can get all this other stuff about profiles and about, following and filtering and sorting and stuff. Yeah, let's just start with this. So let's see what we got. Let's call this onboarding MVP. All right. Bum, 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 bum. So we have 0 sign up, right? Even though I said don't do this, I'm going to do it. Where was the sketch pack? Yeah, it's got all sorts of things. Like you can get, like Bootstrap is a popular framework. So you can have things that look like Bootstrap. So it's easy to just like put these things here and then we're leaving all this other, you know, empty space around it. But in reality, when we go to actually code this, we need to have, um, we're going to have to figure it out at some point, right? So you may as well kind of do it earlier when it's easier to move stuff around than to do it later. It's the whole point of doing the prototyping or the mock-ups. Sign up. I'll do this one at 36. And the reason we're using this hand-drawn one is like I don't want to get so into like fonts or sizes or anything like that at this point. This is not a design. It's just a UX kind of sketch. All right, button.